Which one are you? Are you
of the Monster Squad?
Yeah.
Hold on, her cat wants in.
All right, get the podcat in.
She's the third host.
She's our podcat.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got.
I've earned everything I've got. Yeah, good.
Mr. Gorbachev.
You didn't build that.
Mr.
Yeah, good.
Tear down this wall.
Your favorite president?
Tear down this wall.
I can see Russia from my house. Pokemon go to the polls.
Yeah, good.
What's your country?
You did say well alive.
So, the inaugural episode.
Number 1 of A Chicken in Every Pod. I was boiling you.
He was boiling?
Yeah.
It looked like you were doing like a tickling of the nutsack gesture.
Wait.
You were doing like a, when you're goosing some balls, kind of.
I wasn't
finger.
doing that. I was being a fire.
Listeners, he was not doing fire hands.
I was doing fire hands. Penny, my love.
Our cat's butthole is on the microphone.
Okay, she's just gonna lay here.
Okay, she'll flop.
She'll take a picture of her for the internet.
Okay. I'm Lucia Fasano. I'm a actor, writer, musician based in the Los Angeles area. I also, care a lot about progressive politics, leftist politics. I've done a lot of activism in my time, care about it a lot. I don't really, know a lot of geography. I don't know the difference between the Senate and the Congress. I don't really care, but I care a lot about the issues. And I have been with this man for over 10 years.
That's right.
My co-host.
That's right. Kyle McCormick, that's my name. I am also somebody who has done comedy and writing and music, but I am also a graduate student at the University of Southern California, where I am studying to be a history and government teacher at the secondary level. I've worked on campaigns, local campaigns in the Los Angeles area for both state assembly and Congress, and I love this shit. I live for this shit, and I explain this stuff at length, ad nauseum, to Lucia all the time, to you. And we decided to, make hay out of it.
Yeah, sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes, if I'm watching the debate or if I'm, reading some article and I'm like, what does this mean? What's the significance? It's helpful. But other times he just says this stuff at me and it's not helpful because I'm trying to think about things like murder.
Yeah.
Or what I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
So we thought that, especially in these trying times, we would put this information out for you because you might be wondering, what's this?
Yeah, we want to edutain.
Yeah.
We want to edutain you. And so what we're going to do with this show, A Chicken in Every Pod, is every episode we're going to discuss a phrase or an idea or an event, just something significant in American politics, and I'm going to explain what it means and what the context of it is, go into the history of it, and Lucia's going to look cute and be entertaining.
Yeah, I'm going to be the ear candy of the pod, just get you through that, through all the boring...
Yeah,
boring,
parts.
Yeah, all
the boring parts.
All the boring Kyle parts. And, sometimes our cat, Penelope Pumpkin Spice, is going to interject.
She is. She's the third host. She's the podcat. She's the cat of the show. Cat friend of the show. And she's probably going to pop in and purr and jingle jangle and meow because she loves us.
Yeah, and, we just got to, just every time you hear that little bell, I want you to think that it is the Liberty Bell ringing.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Every time you hear the little bell, a congressman gets a prison sentence.
No, gets a prison sentence.
Okay, so.
Why a chicken in every pod? Why is that the name?
Yeah, so let's talk about this phrase. So it is a play on the phrase "a chicken in every pot," which is, I would say, one of the more well-known old political slogans. It's a common cliche now. The full version was actually a chicken for every pot and a car for every garage. And the origin of this is Herbert Hoover's 1928 campaign for president. Luch, what do you know about Herbert Hoover?
I know. Was he the one that had a lot of points? Or was that Wilson?
It was Wilson.
Okay, well...
And actually George Bush Sr. He had 1,000 points of light.
Oh. Herbert Hoover. The Great Depression.
Yes.
The Hoovervilles,
That's
which
right.
we basically have today. Just sort of people that were put out of work from the Great Depression, and they lit trash cans on fire for warmth.
Yeah.
And
did.
they had little bindles that they put like a little weenie on a stick, and that's how they heated it up. And they'd wait in bread lines for bread. And I assume they'd wait in jelly lines for jelly, peanut butter lines for peanut butter.
It was all lines. They just had to wait
really
in lots
hard
and
to
lots
make
of
one
lines.
sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay,
A
and
sandwich
then
in every pail.
The Hoover Dam. A sandwich in every what?
Pail? Lunch pail?
Yeah, sandwich in every pail. So the Hoover Dam was a big old dam
It's damn big.
that Hoover erected. True or not true, Kyle?
Yeah, so the Hoover Dam was commissioned under Herbert Hoover. And people at the time said we should call this the Hoover Dam.
What time was this?
This would be 1930.
Okay.
They want to call it the Hoover Dam because there was a tradition of naming dams after presidents, but usually after they'd served. But this Republican senator said that we should make an exception and let this one be named for Hoover because Hoover's job before he was president was, guess.
A riverboat man.
God, that'd be so cool. That'd be so much cooler. No, he was an engineer. He was, and
okay.
so he did big projects like dams and stuff.
Okay.
And so they were like, we should name it after him. And then Hoover became very unpopular. Lost his re-election bid in 1932.
Why was he unpopular?
Because he did not do a great job with the Great Depression.
Did he start the Great Depression?
It's not his fault.
When did the Great Depression start?
1929. So right after he took office.
Okay. So he kind of like
So it
inherited
became
it.
yeah, it's like 9/11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like a new president coming in and then slammed with this thing.
Yeah, and it was an inside job.
And Hoover did it.
Yeah.
But he just Hoover's got a little bit of his reputation's been helped since he was president. He wasn't as laissez-faire with the Great Depression as he's remembered as being. He did try to do some things, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't the New Deal, which is ultimately what helped. But so, because he became unpopular, they renamed the Hoover Dam the Boulder Dam because it's in Colorado, or it's near Colorado, I think. And eventually, in the 1940s, after Hoover had stopped being president and was a private citizen who was helping out with the New Deal, Congress decided to name it the Hoover Dam in his honor.
Okay. So you said other presidents have dams?
Yeah, apparently so.
I don't know about any president dam.
Let's find some, shall we?
The Von Claude Van Dam. John Claude Van Dam.
Von Claude Jan Dam? Yeah, that's the name of the podcast. Von Claude Jan Dam.
No, the Von Claude Dam Jam is when
That's what they were waiting in line for, to put on their bread.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think our cat is snoring and it's really cute.
Oh, that's so good. We should just loop some in. Apparently this wasn't really a thing.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean,
I'll
I don't
edit that
even
out.
know
The
many
thing said
dams.
it was a thing.
What's the movie where a dam explodes or something? Or they're fighting on a dam?
I don't know. There's a lot of them, I think.
Really?
Yeah, like a lot of James Bond movies and stuff.
Okay, so why a chicken in every pot?
So a chicken in every pot was because Herbert Hoover, running for president in 1928, he was running basically to increase the economic prosperity of America. That was his whole pitch, right? Was we were going to be so prosperous. I forget which president said this, but I think maybe it was like Reagan or something, but he had the idea of the business of America is business and business is booming. That was his whole pitch. Because remember, this is before the Depression. This is the end of the Roaring 20s, right? Everything had been going gangbusters.
Yeah, everyone was high
Right.
and scantily clad.
Right.
It was great.
It was awesome. And Hoover was renowned for being a fix-it man, basically. Because he was one of only two presidents to have not held elective office or have been in the military before he became president. Or actually, he may have been in the military.
So he was like Trump.
He was like Trump. He was a businessman. He was an engineer.
Okay.
And the first president from California as well.
Wow.
He was the Secretary of Commerce for Calvin Coolidge.
Cool.
It was pretty cool. Silent Cal Coolidge. And
Silent carrier, cool.
Asymptomatic Coolidge. That's what
Yeah.
they call him. But he became famous because there was a great flood in Louisiana in 1927 that he helped fix, which Randy Newman wrote a song about called Louisiana 1927.
Oh, how'd that go?
It went, Louisiana, Louisiana, they're trying to wash us away.
That one.
They're trying to wash us away.
When the road looks rough ahead and they're trying to wash us away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's the sequel.
My favorite Pixar movie.
It became a big hit again after Hurricane Katrina, which is very sad.
So sad.
So sad. But so Hoover became well known as like a guy who could fix stuff. He was a popular fixer guy. So he runs for president on this platform of we are going to make America so rich, so wealthy, you're going to get sick of winning.
Versus who?
Versus in 1928, it was versus so his opponent in 1928 was Al Smith, who was a New York guy, like a New York. I think he was the governor.
Yeah,
he was part of the New York political machine.
Yeah, like Boss Tweed.
Yeah, actually, because he was a New York
Tammany
Democrat.
Hall. See, I know things.
Yeah, you know things. You've seen Gangs in New York.
I did not pay attention.
Yeah, that's long. But so Al Smith is kind of interesting because he's the first ever Catholic to be nominated for president.
Oh, wow.
He
Like
was
JFK.
exactly like
And
JFK.
Joe Biden.
And Joe F. Bay. But so Smith, he was Irish and Italian, and he was an anti-prohibition guy as well. This is during
Okay, so if you're anti-prohibition, that means you're
You're a boozer.
pro-alcohol?
Yeah.
Okay. What a cool
which I already
guy.
said he was Catholic.
Okay.
So
Drinking that
yeah,
wine.
and there was still a lot of anti-Catholic prejudice at this time in the 1920s, right?
True.
So Hoover just destroys Smith.
Oh.
In the election, and Hoover's running mate, his vice president, was until Barack Obama.
Nixon.
No,
Okay.
was the only acknowledged person with non-European ancestry to be at one of the two highest offices in the land.
Wait, what?
His name was Charles Curtis, and he was a registered member of the Kaw tribe. He was a Native American.
Oh, you've told me that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So were they Democrats or Republicans?
Republicans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You'd think they would make hay of this in the modern
That's
era,
very
but they don't
cool.
talk about it at all.
What was his name again?
Charles Curtis.
Charles Curtis.
He was a senator from Kansas.
Was he like half Kaw?
I believe he was half, yeah. But he looked it. He was like dark-skinned. I'll show you a picture and we can throw it up when we release this on Twitter.
That's so cool. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
He completely looks mixed race. That's
Totally.
amazing.
Yep. Yeah, he was the Senate Majority Leader, actually. Senator from Kansas. He was actually, he was Kaw, Osage, and part French and British.
August Osage County.
That's right. He was part Julie Roberts.
This is actually perfect because we're recording this on Indigenous Peoples Day.
That's right. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, we learned a fact.
We learned a great fact. We all learned a fact.
This show brought to you by Facts.
And logic.
Alternative facts.
Alternative facts.
And logic.
So, Hoover Dam, chicken in every pot. Now, part of the reason why that phrase has been remembered, a chicken in every pot, is because Herbert Hoover oversaw the worst economic collapse in American history. And so there's an irony to it. He did quite the opposite of what he promised. Another reason is that it's often remembered as being an FDR slogan, which it is not. Although it seems like it, right? It seems like something that FDR would be into. He certainly would have liked to have given everyone a chicken. But no, it's Herbert Hoover. So you can go to your Hooverville with your bindle and your weenie on a stick, and you can tell everybody that it was Herbie that wanted to put a chicken in every...
fully loaded.
Yep. Oh, and until Carter, here's a fun fact.
Herbie Halloween.
Until Carter, I believe Herbert Hoover was the longest lived president in U.S. history.
Oh, wow.
There was
So he died in when?
in the 60s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he became president in 1928. He died in the 60s. In fact, one of a piece of evidence in JFK conspiracy world that's been discarded is that they were doing practice runs of a presidential funeral right before Kennedy died.
Ugh.
But it's because they thought Hoover was going to die. And he did, not too long after. But Hoover was, I believe, the only president to have outlived like both of his or three of his immediate successors, I think.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he lived forever.
That's so.
He's the president that didn't die.
Another thing that makes us qualified for this podcast is qualified is over quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
We were reading a lot of conspiracy theory books.
Yeah.
We read Chaos by
Tom O'Neill.
Great
book.
Talking about the 60s, Manson family,
CIA, MK
Ultra. We also read Spitfire.
Crossfire
by Jim Mars. We read a couple of Jim Mars. Talking about the JFK assassination.
Yeah, we've been losing our minds.
So yeah, we're
quarantine.
losing our minds.
Like everybody else.
And I'm reaping the benefits. And speaking of chickens in every pot,
yes.
A thing that I learned recently is that for a long time, and they still sell it like on Amazon, but you have to pay like $30 or something. Whole chickens in a can.
What?
And this is a thing that people apparently, like, I'm not trying to shit on people eating chickens in cans.
No, please.
No, it's a thing. Like, it fed people for a long time. Is you could go to the store and spend very little money and get a whole cooked chicken that's in a can, and you open it, and that's what it is.
And you get salmonella for dinner.
No, and it's got like broth, and people would eat. I looked it up on Amazon, and people were like, "This is a really thin chicken in my can. This is false advertising."
That's what she said.
Anyway, Google chicken in a can. It's disgusting and really cool.
That's amazing. Like the science of that is amazing, and I suppose in a way, Herbert Hoover's goal was realized.
Yeah.
You can indeed have a chicken in every can. So that's the origin of the name. Do you feel satisfied with the explanation?
I feel very satisfied. We might have to explain it at the beginning of every single episode.
We'll come up with different explanations every time.
Yeah.
I'll credit it to a different president every time.
It's like when I worked at a froyo place that sold Dole Whip, and people would ask, like, why is it Dole Whip? And I'd say, it was named after Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
And they would go, cool.
Bob Dole, who, like Charles Curtis, was a senator from Kansas who was Senate Majority Leader as a Republican.
Oh.
So, tying it full circle there. Also, like Herbert Hoover, still alive.
Herbert Hoover's dead. Okay, we might have to explain later. There's a president who never died.
This is a running joke that we have.
A running joke, but also completely
But also it's true
accurate.
and it's Hoover.
We'll tell you about him later.
Bob Dole became famous for selling dick pills on television.
Dick pills?
Yeah. He became a Viagra spokesman in the late 90s.
How can you... Was he president? No, he ran.
No, he ran. He lost.
He ran and he lost.
He actually had two big losses. Mm-hmm. He ran for president in 1996 and lost, of course. He would have been the oldest president ever at that point.
Wow.
And in 1976, he was Gerald Ford's running mate.
Okay.
Because Gerald Ford's current vice president, Nelson Rockefeller, didn't want to run again.
His current vice president?
Right now.
Oh my god.
Gerald Ford's current vice president is still serving.
Get over it, man. You lost.
You lost. Sorry,
Stop
Rocky.
Running. Okay.
So that's Dole. And he's still kicking. He's still around. He's tweeting. Follow him on Twitter.
Oh, no. Okay. So I'm satisfied.
Great.
I think we can get into it.
To our real meat of this topic.
The real canned
The real
meat.
chicken in the pot.
The giblets.
Is it giblets or giblets?
You're the one who's supposed to know that. I think it's like
it's
Kimmy
giblets.
Gibbler from...
I think it's giblets.
From the Olsen... From
the Olsen show?
The Full House.
Yeah,
Kimmy
and Fuller
Giblets.
House.
Okay.
And presumably a Fullest House at some point.
Giblet.
Giblet. Oh, you giblet head.
Okay.
Should we call each other giblet heads?
No.
That's fun.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the real question that we're discussing today?
All right. So today we're talking about court packing.
Court packing.
This is, so when you're packing, that usually means you've got guns in your pocket, or it means you've got like a big dick in your crotch. Like, oh, he's packing.
Packing heat.
Packing heat.
Yeah. Got a massive hog.
Massive hog, a wild hog, and so this has been in the news with the 2020 election ever since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died.
Wait. What accent was that supposed to be?
I just wanted to use some gravitas so that people know.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, our favorite French Supreme Court justice.
So ever
Oof.
since she died like 10 years ago,
Yeah. Jesus.
we it's been like Trump wants to put like Amy Coney Barrett, I can't believe I got her name right.
He did. He actually nailed it.
Into the White House.
Yeah, he's pretty much trying to put Serena Joy from Handmaid's Tale as the Supreme Court justice.
Yeah. So people have been like, Biden, you're going to be court packing, aren't you? I don't know what that means. Everyone's talking about it. And then people are saying, like, we need to stop talking about this and talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
But, whoa, how can we not talk about it if we don't know what we were talking about in the first place? That's where you come in.
Damn, that's so true.
What the fuck who cares? What does it mean?
What does it mean to pack a court? So, let's talk courts. Hey.
Court TV.
That's good. Call us Jack Nicholson, because we're courtside.
Oh, God.
He has courtside season tickets to the Lakers.
He's in the choir a lot in the courtside with like a hot dog.
Yeah, he lives in Quartzsite,
Call us,
Arizona.
Oh, I love that. No, I know. Call us Jack Nicholson because we're doing
As good as it gets.
as good as it gets.
Call us Jack Nicholson, because this podcast right now is as good as it gets.
Because something's gotta give.
That's right.
Is he in that?
I don't know. It's complicated. So, to discuss court packing, I need to zoom out a little bit first. We need to widen the aperture.
Okay.
Courts in the United States, Supreme Court. This is not commonly known among the lay people, but the Constitution of the United States, you've heard of it?
Unfortunately.
It doesn't really say a lot about the makeup of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
It does not specify how many people need to be on it. It does not specify what their qualifications must be. All it says is that it is a lifetime appointment that must be okayed by the Senate.
Okay, why is the Supreme Court even a thing?
The Supreme Court is a thing as part of the separation of powers in the U.S. Constitution.
Separation of Mr. Power.
All right.
I did my part.
That makes me horny, baby, so that's fine.
We can say this because we're engaged.
Yeah, I guess it does.
We're recording this on our bed, so.
Well, I'm on the bed.
Okay.
With Penny. So, basically, the idea was that in order for the government to work properly without being able to consolidate power in any one position, they would separate the three main functions of government, which are, let's see what you remember from civics class. Nobody had civics class.
Okay.
What are the three branches of the federal government?
Legislative?
Correct. Which one is that? What is that? Like, who is the legislative branch?
You bastard. Okay. Legislative. That's the ones that make the laws.
Correct. Who makes the laws? Girls.
The Senate.
And?
The Congress.
The House.
The House.
The House and the Senate together are Congress.
In the middle of the street.
Yes, right.
Okay. So legislative.
So that's the legislative branch. Yeah, they write laws.
Diminutive.
The Pinta, the Santa Maria, the Nina.
Legislative.
Yeah.
Judicial.
Correct. Who's that? You fucked up the flow of this because I was hoping to get to judicial last, but yeah.
We can get to judicial last. Okay.
So what's the
bicameral, vegetable, mineral.
No, bicameral is a thing.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, wait. So legislative.
Correct.
Wait.
I love this because people like me are screaming at their phones right now, and I think that's awesome. Because we deserve to be punished for what we're into.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, just goes to show that, like, I am woke. I am on Twitter.
You're a college graduate.
I'm a college graduate. I have volunteered on political campaigns. I have fund-rosed for Planned Parenthood. But I don't really know some of these things, which shows the problem with our government that needs to change. That's why we're raising awareness. Okay, Ice Bucket Challenge. Okay,
that raised a lot of money for ALS, by the way.
Yeah,
very
fun
successful.
fact.
Fun fact.
It worked.
The Ice Bucket Challenge was a smashing success. They actually raised a ton of money and made real breakthroughs in ALS treatments from that.
Bravo. Legislative. Judicial.
Correct.
Fraternal.
Fraternal?
Just give me the answer.
Executive.
God Ah, damn it. That's the president, right?
That's the president.
Because the president executes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the way that it's supposed to be set up is the Congress writes the laws, and the president has the ability to execute the laws. So Congress cannot enforce its own law. It can't do anything. It just says what they can do.
Yeah, Congress can't do anything, am I right?
Hey, these clowns in D.C.
Yeah.
So the president has to okay the law, sign it off, and then whatever needs doing to make the law happen, the president does. Which is why the president and the executive branch has the State Department, Justice Department, all those different cabinet departments. Those are the groups that execute the laws.
Okay.
And of course, this is just federal, because as the Constitution says, any power not specifically given to the federal government is up for the states to decide. That's a whole other can of worms. The judicial branch is the branch of government that oversees court cases and makes sure that
All court cases in the
yes,
country?
yes, ultimately yes. The thing with the Supreme Court is that that's at the end of a long line of things you have to do to get there. When a case is before the Supreme Court, this is not the first time this case has been argued.
Yeah. People have to like petition, and it has to be a case that represents a constitutional thing.
It does.
It has to be like, shit, this is a real, like, they're denying, little bitch lady is not letting
Right.
gay marriage happen
and it has
at
to,
her job, so what does this mean?
And traditionally it has to be a legal and not political question. That's a big question that the Supreme Court has, which they often ignore. And
What makes it not political?
well, from my perspective, it's impossible to have an apolitical judiciary. But from their perspective, it's a question of whether it's about the mechanics of the law or whether or not a law is good or will work.
Okay.
So to them, a political question would be, should we do this? They say, I have no opinion on whether or not you should do this. My opinion is whether or not this thing is in accordance with the law. That's their distinction.
Like,
that they
I
would
don't
make.
care how you feel about gay marriage.
Yeah.
But if the law
But the
says
14th Amendment
that
says that everyone should be treated equally under the law, and therefore
we have to
it should
care,
be allowed.
that
Exactly.
kind of thing. Okay.
And the process to get there basically is it has to start at the state level. You have to file there's a lot of complicated stuff with this. You can also have anything involving things between states goes automatically to the Supreme Court. Most of the time, it starts at the state level, and it goes up to the Court of Appeals. So let's say I sue you for being too cute. It's getting in the way of my work. It's getting in the way of my life. So I'm taking a court for damages because you're so fucking cute.
Taking me to court for damages because I'm Glenn Close.
Right.
Is she in that?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
I have a fatal attraction to you. So, in court, I lose. The court finds, our local court here,
Finds that I'm not cute?
finds that your cuteness is not a true detriment to my ability to operate, that I need to control myself. That's what they find.
Okay, fair.
And so I appeal that. I say, actually, that's bullshit. So, because our court system is structured vertically, we go to the Court of Appeals, which has a higher authority than our local circuit court does. So we go up, higher court. And these are regional,
So our
right?
circuit court does it horizontally.
That's right, baby. So we go up. We try it again. And this time, they say, you know what? No, you're right. She is so cute that by the reasonable person standard, nobody could operate properly in her vicinity. She's too cute. So, yes,
That's
she
what
owes you damages.
Scalia would have said because he's Italian. So
Exactly.
he's like, she's Italian. Hey,
Yeah,
she's
he
too
he
cute.
likes it. So we appealed it, and now I win. What you can do, appeal it again, right?
Is that what an appellate court is?
Appellate, but yes.
Okay.
No, I'm very
Or an
impressed.
epaulette court
An
is what
an
Michael
epaulette.
Jackson wears on his shoulders.
You went to Michael Jackson.
He's the one that wears epaulettes.
So does every naval officer in the world.
Well, okay.
Okay. Basically, this appeals process, as it goes up the chain of command, will ultimately end at the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court can do one of two things. They can agree to hear the case. They can say, "Great, I'd love to have this case," or they can say, "No, thank you. We're not interested in hearing this case."
Yeah.
Either we don't think it applies to us, or we agree with what was already ruled. Whatever. If they don't rule on it or take it, then whatever the last appellate court said stands.
Yeah, there's
that becomes
definitely been a
precedent.
lot of heartbreaking
Yeah.
situations in the news where it really feels like, can't the Supreme Court have given them another shot?
Yeah.
But it's also like, how many cases can the Supreme Court take? In
Yeah.
my opinion, they're fucking lazy.
Well, I agree. And also the Supreme Court can disagree with itself. This is important to remember. The
They
Supreme
agree to
Court
disagree.
positions itself as the highest law of the land.
Mm-hmm.
But it can overturn itself. Mm-hmm. Its own precedent is not binding to it.
Which is why they say vote for the Supreme Court, because Roe v. Wade could get overturned.
Exactly, because what could happen
Even though
is...
sounds not so supreme, huh?
Basically, yeah, what would happen to something like Roe v. Wade is there would be another case about abortion access that would go to the court, and because the ideological makeup of the court is different, they will say Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided in the 70s, and so here's the new thing. Now, what does this have to do with court packing? What does any of this have to do with court packing? What am I even talking about? Why am I describing this system at all?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Court packing is the idea that because there is no set amount of people that need to be on the Supreme Court, if it is ideologically opposed to the president should just add as many people as he wants until it's ideologically in his favor.
Who came up with this?
So it's something that's been tossed around basically forever because there is no limit on it. And there's...
The limit does not exist.
Correct.
Mean Girls. So why... Okay. So what's weird about this is that, there was the Merrick Garland stuff, and then there was like, Trump is or the Republicans are stopping Obama from having Merrick Garland, and then Trump
Right.
got a nominee or whatever, and then this new situation, what was stopping Trump
from
or
doing it.
Obama if the Republicans are now accusing Biden of court packing? Did they want a court pack, but they didn't? How come this is...
Well, the Republicans didn't have to because they got their 3 seats on the Supreme Court. And more importantly, so the president appoints all appellate court judges, right? Local judges are usually elected. We vote for them in our local circuits. But appellate court justices are appointed by the president. McConnell just didn't approve any of Obama's appointees. So what he did with Garland was not the only thing he did. He did basically the same thing all throughout the country in all these appellate courts. Just stonewalled them. Just didn't okay them.
But we didn't really... It
You don't
wasn't
really hear
really
about it.
talked
It's
about
not
in the
sexy.
news.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Trump gets into office, and there's suddenly, I think, hundreds of open judicial seats throughout the appellate system. And he just puts in whoever he wants.
Is that what Amy Coney Barrett was?
Yes. She was one of his appointees to this. And this is what Kamala Harris was talking about in the last debate, by the way, with Mike Pence.
When I was sleeping.
While you were sleeping. Starring somebody. It's a movie.
Yeah, I was like, the movie.
But when Mike Pence said, you want to pack the court, she said, well, we'd consider blocking a president's rightful appointees long enough that you can fill them all with your appointees to be packing the court. And so the reason it hasn't really been done is because it's never really been needed to be done. And there's a sense that it is a norm breaking that potentially opens up a huge can of worms about what the Supreme Court is and what it
how
can
many
do.
people could be in it?
I mean, you could appoint every person in America to the Supreme Court as long as the Senate okayed them.
Hell yeah.
So the closest this has come to happening was FDR threatened it when he was president.
FDR kind of shook up a lot of things, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna run 70 times.
He ran 70 times. He was the only president to serve more than 2 terms, of course. Not the only president to run for 3 terms.
Who ran for 3 terms?
Theodore Roosevelt, his great uncle.
Uncle Teddy.
Uncle Teddy. And of course he lost. Roosevelt did. For his 3rd term. But, he was a president. So FDR loved breaking norms. Call him...
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call him George Wentz...
Horse train. Okay.
Damn it. Okay. He loved breaking norms. Call him a guy who forecloses on diners. Yeah.
Some listeners might not know Norms as a diner.
Norms!
Exactly.
It's commercials.
Oh.
Is it a local thing?
I think so.
Oh.
It might be an LA thing.
Wow.
But that's okay.
Hollywood, baby. That's
okay,
movie magic.
just so you know, we're in Hollywood. We are white, cis people.
Yeah.
As we didn't mention that at the top. We are coastal elites.
Yeah, we are college-educated liberal coastal elites.
Yeah.
Um,
So just getting that out of the way.
yeah.
All
Felt
right,
good?
let's get back.
Okay. So, FDR wanted to do all this stuff with the New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And people in the Senate didn't want him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the Supreme Court, which was kind of conservative at the time, said, we're just going to strike down whatever you do.
Yeah.
And so he said, great, I'm going to get like 5 dudes to be on the Supreme Court. And then every case will be tried in my favor.
So he said, if you strike me down, I shall add
A bunch of dudes.
A bunch of dudes.
yeah, that's basically what he said.
Okay.
Now, he didn't end up doing it. The threat of that was basically enough to get everyone to fall in line for the New Deal.
Okay, so it has a kind of a reputation of like, oh, core packing.
Yeah. It's seen as a very extreme move. Because it's also seen as...
One thing Joe Biden is.
Extreme. He's radical. He's a far-left Antifa radical. It's seen as a politicization of the Supreme Court. That's a part of the norm behind it.
So the Supreme Court likes to act like it's apolitical.
It's technically supposed to be an apolitical...
Even though it's not.
Even though it's obviously not. And it's seen as making the politicization of the Supreme Court explicit. Mm-hmm. As like, okay, we're just going to wage ideological and partisan warfare in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Which is a norm that most legal professionals do not want to cross.
Yeah, we should talk about the Electoral College in another episode before the election.
Great one. And
because it reminds me of the Supreme Court, where it's like, okay,
yeah,
I
I'd
get
love
how this
to
was
get into the
maybe
idea
helpful at
of the
some
Electoral
point,
College. Yeah.
But maybe this doesn't... It's one of those things where it's like, if this doesn't make sense to the people,
maybe it's not good.
It's outdated. Yeah.
So the Supreme Court, people talk about getting rid of it. That's something you can do. You're still going to have a judicial system. So it's more, I think, about figuring out what the Supreme Court does, what it's for. Because ultimately, the Supreme Court is just the last appellate court. It's
All courts are bastards.
Yeah. All courts are bodacious. So that leads me to my next point, which is, if not court packing, then what? That's for our new segment.
Yeah.
If not court packing, then what?
Corner.
Corner. So, court packing would be done, I know,
Penny.
as a way to push back against what is seen as the unfair ideological advantage of putting Amy Coney Barrett in office. Mm-hmm. Now, it is worth pointing out, there's nothing unconstitutional about what the Trump administration is doing. I hate to say this, but it's true. Trump is the president. He is allowed to nominate anyone he wants until he's not president anymore, which is January 20th, 2021.
Ooh. So the idea is it's not unconstitutional because every president has a right to nominate.
Yeah, and the Senate can...
if he just forced it, then that would be...
No, there's no part of this that's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they were just like, we're not even going to vote on it, that would be like, what? But
there's an
what
argument.
He's following
the
proper...
rules. And
yeah, you get them all together in a room with the Rona.
Yeah, and you cough on everybody.
And then you go to the hospital.
It's hypocritical because the arguments made by Mitch McConnell in 2016 about Merrick Garland fall apart with this, right?
Yeah, and just to remind our listeners, in 2016 with Barack Obama.
Yeah, Barack Hussein Obamacare.
And Antonin Scalia.
Oh!
I'm dying mysteriously over here.
I got a pillow on my face over here.
Yeah, after Danny DeVito cursed him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Look it up. So that was like February, right?
It's February.
The election is in November.
Always is. Always has been.
Always has been. Always should be. And so that is quite different to nominate and be blocked because of an election year than Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying a month before the election and trying to get in Amy Coney Island.
Amy Coney Island, that's right. That's right. McConnell's argument in 2016 was the American people should get to decide who picks the next Supreme Court justice. And in hindsight, they've added to they may have said this at the time, but who cares? It's all in bad faith. They've added that the reason that he blocked it was because the president and the Senate were controlled by different parties.
It's funny because Merrick Garland wasn't even very liberal.
He's a very moderate judge.
Yeah. Everything with Obama that it's like...
He should have nominated Angela Davis at that point.
Yeah,
Like, they're just going to
like,
shoot it down. He
yeah.
could have nominated himself.
Obama could have, the argument of like, Obama had to, lock up migrants. He
Yeah.
had to do this because the Republicans were so mean to him. It's like, no, like they were already calling him a socialist before he ran.
I mean, look what they're calling Joe Biden
He was
already.
very moderate.
Yeah.
And he worked with, Merrick Garland was, there were even thoughts, I think, of like, maybe Merrick Garland's not going to be as pro-choice. Maybe he's not going to go.
He was certainly not seen as a Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah. She rules.
Yeah, she's one of the most progressive justices we've had. She deserves more of a...
She should be on socks.
She should be on socks. The cat. Bill
Yeah.
Clinton's cat, socks.
They should. Oh, she should have like a thing like RBG, like soda, or like, or isn't Sodu Supreme Court, right?
SCOTUS.
SCOTUS. So it should be like Sonia
SCOTUS
SCOTUS
Sotomayor.
Mayor.
SCOTUS Sotomayor. That's the name of this episode. SCOTUS Sotomayor.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay, so that's all nonsense. Now, there's an argument to be made about McConnell's constitutionality in 2016, because the president has the right to appoint any, what's it when there's nobody there? Any vacancy, to fill any vacancy that he is allowed to fill, like the Supreme Court, for instance. The Senate has the duty.
Prerogative duty.
I like prerogative.
Thanks.
To hold hearings on that person to decide if they are fit or not
Yeah.
for the role.
They make them do relay races.
Yeah, that's what the presidential fitness exam
I mean,
is.
that's what that whole Rose Garden meeting was. Like they were making Amy Coney Barrett.
That's why they were all.
like,
That's why they all got the Rona,
got the
because they were
Rona
all
'cause they
sweating
were-
and breathing
and
hard.
like balancing eggs
Yeah.
on a spoon.
Plus the
and-
kissing booth. I said it was a bad idea,
they
but
yeah. I mean, it was very hot.
it was amazing. I mean, Chris Christie had his shirt off. It was incredible. But so you could argue that there was an abrogation of the constitutional duty of the Senate by not even holding hearings on Garland, which they could have avoided maybe if they had just held hearings and then not voted for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't have to approve
So
him.
they didn't even have.
No, they didn't
hearings.
even have hearings. Which,
Yeah, like what?
yeah. They didn't even start the process, basically.
They
which-
didn't start
the
the
process.
Okay.
So, all of this, it sucks. The court packing idea was basically to, if the Republican Party is going to play politics with the Supreme Court and do these shifty, not illegal necessarily, but shifty things to get what they want, then perhaps the Democratic Party should also do shifty, not illegal things to get what they want.
So who started? Because it almost feels like the Republicans, were doing things in bad faith, and then they kind of planted the seed of like, well, we've been screwing them over so much that I bet if Joe Biden's elected, he's going to court pack. Like, who put
It came
that
from the
little...
left. It came from the left.
It came from the left?
Yeah.
It came from liberals or came from, like...
Progressives.
They said he should court pack?
Yeah, they said if McConnell's going to do this, then we should just pack the court. Because progressives have been talking about packing the court for a long time. Since FDR. Because from the progressive and leftist perspective, the court is an inherently reactionary institution. And it's inherently political. So there's no concerns
Why
about
not?
politicizing it. Why not? It's there. It's a thing that is used for reactionary purposes usually. Why not harness it to be our own thing?
If you're packing the court, so that's adding as many as possible, they still have to be... Like, let's say Joe wanted to add all of...
Let's say the Obamas.
The Obamas.
They've talked about
including
it.
the kids.
Yeah.
They would have to have a hearing for each individual one,
That's
right?
right.
So the opposition party could drag it out for a long time,
There's nothing stopping...
which could be which maybe would be better than like if it was Trump again and he decided to pack the courts, we'd want to kind of fight it.
Well, especially because it depends on what party is controlling the Senate.
Yeah.
And the Senate is very, very in play this year. There's a very good chance the Democrats take the Senate back.
Good.
Which is part of the reason why they're trying to rush this through, just in case Trump does get reelected and they lose the Senate. Ugh. So, yeah, the idea would be to pick, I think they've talked about 2 or 3.
Wait, a new segment. Trump Watch. Is he alive? As
Yeah.
of right now, he's alive.
I heard that he was tested negative for COVID. So,
Sure.
who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea would be that Biden would nominate 2 or 3 qualified nominees, and they go in the court, and you'd have 11 or 12 justices. That's more fair, more weighted fairly. Because right now we're looking at a 6-3, what's called a 6-3 spread, which is 6 conservative votes, 3 liberal votes. Okay. Now, these are not destiny. This is an important thing to remember, which is why I think that the Supreme Court's hugely important, and I think that we should do a lot with it, but their political ideology is not destiny, which is why Amy Coney Barrett is a problem, because she is an ideological warrior. Now, already, Kavanaugh's not great, obviously. Gorsuch just turned out to be a little more even-handed than was expected. That's Trump's first. That's who got Merrick Garland's seat, was Neil Gorsuch, and he just ruled in a trans case. He ruled in a pro-trans way. I forget what the case was, but so we don't really know how these people are going to shake out. I mean, conservatives don't like John Roberts anymore, even though he was George W. Bush's pick to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and he was like 50 years old, so he'd be the Chief Justice for most of our lives.
There should definitely be term limits and not lifetime appointments.
Yes, and the lifetime appointment originally was to depoliticize it.
The lifetime appointment, that's how long I have to get laser hair removal, because it takes forever.
Italian stuff. So the idea was that if they are not subject to political whims, if they can't be removed and appointed kind of willy-nilly, then they are not incentivized to play political games on the court with whoever the executive branch is.
They can kind of like the fact that
they can be above the fray.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg voted very conservative in some ways. Yeah. Because it's a whole lifetime.
It's like tenure. It's like getting tenure.
Yeah. So sometimes your professor is like really cool, and other times they're like going through a divorce and they're just like going to fail everyone. All the time. They're very drunk, but no one can stop them.
That's right. Nobody can stop them. They have tenure. So the other option, besides packing the court, if you want to make the Supreme Court neutralized, let's say, like if you want to have a Green New Deal, but this 6-3 Supreme Court's like, but the Commerce Clause says no, or whatever. The other option is to basically say that the Supreme Court can't do that, or the Supreme Court can't strike down laws.
Oh.
So, the ability of the Supreme Court to strike down laws, which is usually called the doctrine of judicial review, is not in the Constitution. That is not a power that is delegated to the Supreme Court in the United States Constitution.
And yet, what are some examples of the Supreme Court striking down laws?
Well, an example of when they had the opportunity to strike down a law and saved it instead was the Affordable Care Act.
Oh, yeah.
That hung in the balance there, right? And they ended up saving it, although people like to say John Roberts helped save the Affordable Care Act, but the way that he wrote his opinion actually is a win for conservative jurisprudence, not liberal, because he said that it was a tax, which is allowed, and not justifiable under the Commerce Clause, which is what we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so
yeah, I have no idea what a Commerce Clause is.
The Commerce Clause. Okay, real quick. Real quick. This is a huge thing in conservative jurisprudence. The Commerce Clause is a clause in the U.S. Constitution that says that the federal government has the ability to regulate interstate commerce. So anytime that a state is dealing with another state economically, the federal government can control that, can regulate that. Now, more progressive jurists love the Commerce Clause, and they have a very broad view of it. Basically, the Commerce Clause is how you could justify single-payer healthcare constitutionally, by saying that it is the federal government regulating interstate commerce in the healthcare market between different states.
Would that apply also to, like, saying someone can't work at a certain place because of their sexuality?
That falls under a different thing. That falls under the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
Which the 14th Amendment, which was passed after the Civil War, after slavery was ended, the 14th Amendment guarantees that all U.S. citizens be treated equally under the law. So you can't have laws that specifically carve out negative consequences or policies for one group of people. And this is how gay marriage was decided. They said, if the state is recognizing marriage, we can't discriminate who can have it, basically. That is a dereliction of the 14th Amendment. And fairness acts, basically, anti-discrimination laws, right? The Hobby Lobby kind of things. Those fall under the 14th Amendment as well, because they are regulations on what businesses can do with their customers. So they say, you can't discriminate.
So back to the Commerce Clause.
Commerce Clause. So conservatives take a very narrow view of the Commerce Clause.
Of course.
They see it as literally just regulating specific acts of commerce between states. Which is significant, because without the Commerce Clause, the federal government can't really do much of anything in terms of economics. that would all fall to the states otherwise. So Roberts weakened the Commerce Clause, basically, in his ACA ruling. Because the president, Barack Obama, the president, let me be clear. He said that the ACA was allowed under the Commerce Clause. That's how his administration argued
they got it through.
Roberts said, no, actually, it doesn't. This doesn't apply to the Commerce Clause. We are going to leave it because by having the individual mandate, you are levying a tax. It's a tax penalty for not having health insurance.
Or like an individual mandate when you take yourself bowling.
That's like what I do when you're busy at night. I go on like a little individual mandate.
You're like, I'm going to play Red Dead Redemption by myself.
Yeah, for like 6 hours. So by saying it's a tax, he allowed it. But by saying it doesn't count for the Commerce Clause, he actually weakened that argument legally. Sucks. So, the ability, though, for the Supreme Court to strike down laws, not just give a review, not just say, we don't think this is legit, but to actually get rid of the law, is a power the Supreme Court gave itself in 1803, in a famous case that everyone's heard of from high school, but nobody really remembers what it means, which is Marbury v. Madison. One of the most important cases in Supreme Court history, because this is when Chief Justice John Marshall said, we can do this. If we decide this thing is unconstitutional, then it can't exist anymore. It has to go. I'm not going to get into what Marbury v. Madison was all about. It's very complicated. It has to do with judicial appointments and I think diplomatic appointments that failed to occur between the transition from President Adams to President Jefferson. And there was just a whole thing about the legality. It's boring, honestly.
Yeah, just look it up on Wikipedia and sort of rap battle it Lin-Manuel Miranda style.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll make sense.
You'll love it. But so that's something that they gave themselves. And they said that we have this power. Now, without it, the Supreme Court's job would mostly be to give
like opinions.
Advisory reviews. Exactly. They would say, this is no good. Basically, it's no good. It doesn't fit this. But they wouldn't actually be able to create law, to enact law, which is arguably not their job. Arguably, that's the job of the executive branch, to execute the rulings. In fact, very famously, Andrew Jackson, probably apocryphally, but famously, said in a case when he was president, Justice Marshall has made his ruling, he can enforce it. And just didn't go with it, really. It was a case that ultimately actually led to the Trail of Tears. It was very sad. It had to do with the sovereignty of native territories. The case itself was.
Do you remember what that case was called?
I had it right here.
Be good for Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, you think this is not okay? Well, you can enforce it, but I'm the president, so I have the military, so screw you. That
basically, yeah, like
kind of what he meant. Like,
yeah, like well,
just because you don't agree with it.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Basically, like, advice taken. Thank you.
Hey, maybe Andrew Jackson was a dick.
Yeah, he was. Worcester v. Georgia was the name. Worcester v. I assume it's pronounced Worcester. It's Worcester.
Okay.
It was a case about the state of Georgia, actually in an attempt to prevent white settlers from encroaching on native lands, they had a law that said if you were white, you couldn't be on Cherokee land without a permit. Mm-hmm. And a pro-indigenous activist named Worcester, he sued the state of Georgia for this. And his argument was, although this law is well-intentioned, by having this law at all, it demonstrates that the state of Georgia has authority over Cherokee land. And he was saying they don't. That the Cherokee should be seen as basically a sovereign but dependent nation under the U.S.
And they can make up their own.
And they can say whatever they want. Whoever can come whatever they want. The state of Georgia has no authority.
This sounds like this backfired.
It did a little bit, yeah.
Oh, no.
And so John Marshall ruled, I believe, in Worcester's favor and said, yeah, the state of Georgia has no control over Cherokee lands. They are a sovereign, but dependent on the federal government of the United States.
So Andrew Jackson was like,
Yeehaw. I don't care what you have to say about that. Like, we're going to do whatever we want. So there's some minor precedent for this. But so basically what could happen, and there's nothing stopping this from happening right now, right, is let's say President AOC passes a Green New Deal in a couple of years, a couple decades. And Chief Justice Stephen Crowder says, no, this is no good.
Justice
Miley Yiannopoulos says.
Miley Cyrus. No, who's the tattooed-faced SoundCloud rapper? I mean, there's all of them.
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Sure.
Yeah. Chief Justice Tekashi 6ix9ine and his army of like 4chan groypers that are all on the thing now. They all say no deal. Mm-hmm. No Green New Deal. It's not constitutional. There's absolutely nothing stopping the president from saying, thank you so much. I will take that under advice and Fafangul. We're not gonna. I don't care.
Yeah, that was a great AOC impression. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm the president of the United States.
Call me Sandy.
Hey, just call me Sandy and Fafangul. That picture. Where's she doing this?
Yeah, AOC with the
Italian.
squinty, the Robert De Niro face.
Yeah. So that's the other option in order to stop an intransigent Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. If not packing it, you just say, fuck off. I don't care. You say, my opinion is that Marbury v. Madison was wrongly decided. Mm-hmm. And it's not like you're not allowed to disagree with the Supreme Court. I mean, look how many people disagree with Roe v. Wade, right? Look how many currently elected officials.
And they basically have turned, in different states, they basically have, by their own interpretation of Roe v. Wade, have made it not functioning.
Which is what will happen, by the way, if Roe v. Wade is overturned.
And now, in my opinion, even though Roe v. Wade is incredibly important and I don't want it to be overturned, we have reproductive justice in this, booby trap where, because Roe v. Wade is about privacy, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about
bodily sovereignty.
Bodily sovereignty.
Yeah.
So, there needs to be a better case.
If you're worried about Roe v. Wade,
the idea of having a new case is terrifying.
If you're worried about Roe v. Wade, work very, very hard to elect progressives at your state legislature.
Yes.
That's what you need to do. If you're truly worried about... Because legislating via the Supreme Court is always going to be a sketchy situation because it can always be overturned. It's the same reason that Obama was a little foolhardy to legislate by executive order. Because Trump comes in and goes, oh, all these, who needs them? And he throws them away. Yeah. It's not done through Congress. Mm-hmm. Things that are done through Congress are sticky, right? They can stick around. It's a lot harder to undo it. Legislating by Supreme Court order or executive order, it's a house of cards. It can fall apart easy. So, if you're very concerned about Roe v. Wade, and you're right to be, focus on making sure that your state legislature, your local legislators, are as progressive as can be. Because the consequence of the revocation of Roe v. Wade is not that abortion will become illegal. Is that abortion policy will be 100% up to the states. That's what it will mean.
Which it already is.
It functionally is.
So it's going to be... It would be much worse.
Exactly. In those places.
Yeah.
It functionally is already left to the states to manage it, but it's still something you're allowed to do on the federal level. If it's left entirely to the states, then somewhere like where we live in California is probably not going to be that much different, right? But the places that are already against it, your Alabamas, your Georgias, they can basically just outlaw it outright, which they can't do right now. Mm-hmm. They cannot say you can't do it. It is a federally protected thing you can do. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's not a right, but it's a federally protected action. Mm-hmm. Without Roe v. Wade, it's not federally protected anymore. They can just get rid of it. So if you're concerned about Roe v. Wade, your best option, honestly, in the long term, is to make sure that your state and your specific personal legislator is as progressive and pro-choice as possible. Because if we get progressive legislators in these states, in all these states, and they rule that abortion is allowed, that is going to be stickier, in a good way, and more secure than Roe v. Wade is right now. Mm. We would rather have it be a federally protected right. Absolutely. But if that is not the option, the second best option is making sure that your home is protected. Your home state is protected. So please pay attention to your local races. Yeah. That's the most important thing. It's so much more important than who the president is.
Yeah, even being in Southern California, and we did, Kyle more so than me, but I volunteered on an assembly race and a congressional race in Southern California. In my opinion, because of mismanagement from local Southern California Democrats, we lost more seats, through Katie Hill's behavior, through other, mismanagement of local Dem groups. So
there were, I'll just...
Republicans get through. Yeah, and, but, so it's like, we can be, a Democrat-run state, but you're still having conservative cities that, there's fake women's healthcare clinics. There's, anti-choice billboards everywhere, a lot of peer pressure, and maybe your Planned Parenthood is like
they can put
a 2-hour
unbelievably
bus ride
onerous
away.
regulations
So it's like
on
you
it.
have to pay attention to
And this stuff, by
your
the way,
local races.
this is democracy.
This is
This
democracy
is
manifest.
I love democracy. Palpatine said that. He didn't love democracy. But
Did he have a succulent Chinese meal?
yeah, he did. Having your legislators be people that believe in what you believe and organizing for them, paying attention for them, being on top of them, that's democracy. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court writing our laws is not democracy. We should disempower the Supreme Court a lot.
Yeah.
So please pay attention to your local races. Get involved. The problem is Republicans are better at this than we are right now. They are very organized, and they take both legislative races, like state legislative races, and judicial appointments extremely seriously. They have long-standing things like the Federalist Society, FedSoc as they call it, which basically just churns out young conservative judges and lawyers. Ugh. And they have these local parties and clubs that are very good at what they do.
Lots of free pizza.
Lots of free pizza. So we need to organize better than them. That's the end of the day.
Better.
Build back better.
Bill back better.
Hey.
William back better.
William back better.
Yeah.
So, Luch, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What is court packing?
In the criminal justice system, there are two separate but equal. Okay, court packing is when a president loves another president very much. No, and,
kind of the opposite.
And he packs. It's when I'm so nervous. It's when a president decides to nominate as many Supreme Court justices as they want that are preferably justices that are from their political party, because there actually is not a limit on justices. But hasn't really happened before, and it's basically being used as a scare tactic to say that Joe Biden's going to be a tyrant.
Yeah, yes, Republicans are using it as a scare tactic for that. The Biden campaign is using it as a subtle threat as well, though.
Ooh, so what is Biden's campaign's take on what is
they are
Biden
saying
said
they are
about
not answering the question.
Okay,
They are aggressively saying like,
let's
"Come on,
do it,
man, we're not
let's-
going to talk about this."
Let's do a role play. So
Okay.
I'm an upstart reporter.
Okay.
I almost said Senator Biden.
He used to be.
Vice Presidential Biden.
Yeah.
Are you going to pack the court?
Come on, man. Everyone's asking me these questions. Man, we're just trying to run a good campaign here, man. You know, I'm out here every day. Me and Senator
Julio down by the schoolyard.
Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. We're out here every day, man. We're just trying to make build back America better.
But what about Amy Coney Barrett?
Well, you know, I don't think that she should. Yeah. Next question. So that's basically their answer.
Okay.
They're not answering the question.
But they like that Biden suddenly has that power.
If you read between the lines, which I am doing, if you read the tea leaves a little bit, they're not answering the question because they want it to be perceived as a threat, I think.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Now, others think that they're not answering because they don't want a court pack, and they don't want to say that. I think that they probably don't want a court pack, but they also don't want to remove that as an option right now.
Yeah. Because we might kind of need it.
They may need it.
But to me, I both don't like the way the Supreme Court is run. I don't like that there's so few Supreme Court justices. I don't like that it's our whole rights are hanging in the balance of a couple of people. I don't like the way Mitch McConnell did things. But I also would be scared that we'd have the precedent of if Joe Biden court packed.
Yeah.
And then
what's
the next
stopping President Mike Pompeo from doing the same thing?
Yeah.
That's the question. That's the risk that you run.
That's a cute nickname for Mike Pence. Mike Pompeo.
But yeah, I mean that's the risk. That's why they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because at that point it risks basically destroying the Supreme Court, which inshallah. And one last thing about Amy Coney Barrett. Mm-hmm. This was brought up in the vice presidential debate. I know you were sleeping. Kamala Harris pointed out that Abraham Lincoln in 1864, less than a month to go before the election, had an opening on the Supreme Court. And he said, it's not right. I'm not going to fill it. It's too soon before the election. We'll let the people decide, and they'll pick it. So there is precedent for, at this point in the game, saying, actually, we'll let it decide. It's not something they have to do, but my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln, did it. And let's not forget what else was happening in 1864. The freaking Civil War. So that's just worth thinking about. And that's court packing. Well, we got into a lot of stuff besides court packing. We got into Marbury v. Madison. We got into judicial review. We got into the history of the Supreme Court. We talked about Roosevelt. We talked about Lincoln. We talked about everybody under the sun. But
we might as well be walking on the sun.
So I think, though, that we did answer the core question, which is, what is court packing? Why does it matter?
Yeah, and I think that, that's going to be kind of how we approach other things on this case, because I feel like where, voter literacy, the flaw is that we all get these sort of zeitgeisty, soundbitey things that we, people that are, very passionate about, like, we need to defund the police, or they're like, how come, this killer cop hasn't been arrested?
Yeah.
But if they don't know about, what's it called?
Qualified immunity?
Qualified immunity. Like, I didn't know.
That would be a good one to do an episode on.
Definitely. I didn't know what qualified immunity was. And so you're just frustrated of, like, it's illegal to murder someone. How come they murdered someone? It's very obvious.
And there's like a whole history and a whole... I won't say that I agree with it, but there's a whole philosophical justification behind qualified immunity. Like, it's a very complicated subject.
Yeah, and so it's just one of those things where these things are so complicated, and not only have we been failed by our education systems and propaganda, it's sort of the mission statement of the show, is like, we've been failed by, American propaganda and our education systems, but also it's very complicated. A lot of it is purposefully trying to confuse you so that voters don't show up at the local meetings. They don't whatever, because they make you feel powerless. Like, if you try to understand some of these premises, it's just they purposefully put this stuff in the ivory tower so that the people will be confused. And so understand...
we're here to take it out like Prometheus.
Yeah.
Take the fire
out of that ivory tower.
And so these are what the episode will be like. We are both very smart and curious and wide-ranging people, so I'm sure that a lot of these conversations will be like this, where we touch on a lot of different stuff. We're not going to be able to give everything the attention that we feel it deserves, but I will say, if you're listening to this and there's something that we talked about that you want a deeper dive into, that you want more context for, that you want to understand better, let us know on Twitter. Let us know at every_pod, and maybe we'll do an episode on it. Like, if we talked about Marbury v. Madison, and if you want to know the weird story behind Marbury v. Madison and why it matters, we can do that.
Yeah, and if there's
let us know.
Yeah, if there's stuff that you feel should be known about something we talked about, we'd love to highlight those important aspects.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if you have corrections, if you have a different take, let us know. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Fucking get off our asses.
Definitely just get off our ass about it, but let us know.
Yeah. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lucia, Lucia_Fasano, Fasano. And you can follow Kyle
at Kyle, Kyle, _MCCORMICK.
And this has been
a chicken in every pod.
Wait, what does a chicken go?
Bum 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 bum
Bill Maher.